Welcome to this report on a conversation with Roger, in which the question will be considered: why did ancient peoples make their covenants with sacrifices? Roger related to me his recent investigation into the Mari tablets and what they reveal about ancient covenants. I did not know until recently, said Roger, that French archaeologists made major discoveries in 1933 at an ancient Syrian city called Mari on the Euphrates River. I am not familiar with that discovery, I admitted. Can you tell me more about it? As well as finding and unearthing significant ruins, a major finding was over 25,000 cuneiform tablets, nearly 2,000 years old, that Assyriologists have worked to decipher. Most of the tablets date to a time period estimated to be around 1850 BC. Those tablets must have shed a lot of light on civilization at that time in history, I mused. That would be shortly after the time when Abraham lived. Yes, said Roger. What interests me in particular, said Roger, was a few of the tablets that described covenant-making ceremonies. Why do they interest you? I asked. What struck me, said Roger, was the sacrifice of an animal to inaugurate a treaty or covenant. Can you tell me more? I asked. Let me read a summary from the Jewish Virtual Library's website, offered Roger. In the largely illiterate society of the tribe, treaties were concluded not by means of documents, but solely by symbolic acts. In the cases recorded in the Mari texts, by the ritual of killing an ass foal. In one case, a possible ploy was made to introduce other animals into the ritual. In a report on a peace treaty made between the Hanians and the land of Idumaris, a Mari official in the Haran region tells his king that they brought to me a whelp and a goat, but I obeyed my lord and did not give permission for the use of a whelp and a goat. I caused the foal, the young of a she-ass, to be slaughtered. One other source summarizes the same tablet in this way, said Roger. This example shows us three important points about covenants. First, it reveals how common covenants were during the time that God cut a covenant with Abraham. Second, it shows that animal sacrifices were an integral part of covenant making. And third, it reinforces how serious covenant agreements were considered in ancient times. Thank you for reading that slowly, I said to Roger, because it takes time to absorb it. Don't you find it so interesting that the covenant recorded on the tablet was confirmed by offering an animal sacrifice? And the kind of animal required was very specific, observed Roger. How do you see the information on this tablet providing corroboration for the Bible? I asked Roger. The very first covenant in the Bible was the one made with Noah, was it not? Asked Roger. Yes, I replied. That covenant was between God and man. And it was confirmed or inaugurated by Noah's offering animal sacrifices, added Roger. Roger read Genesis 8 and 20. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took some of every clean animal and some of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And immediately afterwards, God made his covenant with Noah, noted Roger. Let's think this through, said Roger. If Noah and his 7 family members were the only survivors of the flood, as the Bible states, reasoned Roger, then all humanity today is descended from them. So as Noah's offspring spread out through the Fertile Crescent and beyond, they took with them the original knowledge that animal sacrifices were the means by which God accepted and confirmed his covenant with men. All ancient societies and peoples retain some form of that original knowledge about covenants and the role of sacrifice. So that's a good explanation for why covenant making with sacrifices was common in places like Mari, as documented in the Mari tablets, elaborated Roger. In the Hebrew language, the idea of two parties entering into a covenant is called cutting a covenant, I expressed to Roger. Can you give me a Bible example? Asked Roger. Yes, I replied. Psalm 50:5 is a good one. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. According to Strong's Concordance, the word made is the Hebrew verb karoth, to cut off or cut, I noted. There was a very strong connection between the cutting off of an animal as a sacrifice and making a covenant, I noted. But in the passage of time, as Noah's descendants rapidly multiplied and dispersed, they corrupted the original practice, Roger said. What were some of the ways that was done? I asked Roger. Many ancient societies had a custom of blood covenants, where each party to the covenant lanced his arm, and then they sucked the other's blood, commented Roger. The practice of making cuttings in the flesh was specifically forbidden in the law of Moses, as was eating blood, I said. Altars and sacrifices became corrupted too, said Roger, and were used for offering human sacrifices as tribal deities. Even through all the corruption that occurred, the original idea of sacrifice by cutting off and shedding blood was retained, I said, as part of the idea of cutting a covenant. God's original design from the beginning, I said to Roger, was for his son, the Messiah, to be cut off as the covenant sacrifice. Where is that in the Bible? Asked Roger. A favorite verse of mine is in Isaiah 42, I replied. Behold, my servant whom I uphold, my chosen in whom my soul delights. I am the Lord. I have called you in righteousness. I will take you by the hand and keep you. I will give you as a covenant for the people, a light for the nations, to open the eyes that are blind, to bring out the prisoners from the dungeon, from the prison those who sit in darkness. One great purpose of God's giving his Son, his servant, as a covenant for the people, was to bring us out of the prison of our graves, I summarized to Roger. I see then, said Roger, that God's covenant with us is a covenant for everlasting life. The sacrifices of animals and the covenants they marked were placeholders pointing forward to Christ until he came. If you would like to learn more about the subject of cutting a covenant in the Bible, please go to the website, thegoodnewsplan.org, and you can download there the lesson